manhole while walking her dog one weekend, breaking her orbital socket and necessitating a few days of delay. She'd finished the trial wearing dark wraparound sunglasses indoors and using a cane to get around the courtroom. Talk about earning sympathy points from the jury. One of our key witnesses disappeared for a week. The NYPD detective who had found the gun in Ortiz's waistband was so sinister on the witness stand that Sullivan, who'd been trying cases for over a decade, later told me he came off like Darth frickin' Vader up there. Sullivan, unlike me and most of our SDNY colleagues, rarely cursed. Eventually, mercifully, the trial ended. The jury deliberated for 4 long days before sending out a note to the judge. We have a verdict. Everyone hustled back to the courtroom. This wasn't the trial of the century or even the trial of the week at the SDNY, but I was having a full nervous system type response. I consciously tried to slow my own breathing. Once everyone was back in place in the courtroom, judge up on the bench, Sullivan and me at the front prosecutor's table, Ortiz and his lawyer behind us at the defense table, Ortiz's family arrayed in the gallery, the jury filed in. Some trial lawyers claim you can tell what the jurors have decided by watching them come back into the courtroom before the verdict. But if they were giving any clues that day, I wasn't seeing them. Sullivan, seemingly amused at how nervous I was over a relatively small potatoes case, he'd been through many verdicts on far bigger matters, leaned over and whispered, "Can you believe they really do it like this?" I knew better than to laugh by this point. "Remember," Sullivan added, growing more pointed, "whatever they decide, no reaction whatsoever." Foreperson of the jury, on count 1, conspiracy to commit robbery. How do you find? The judge's clerk asked. "Not guilty," came the response. Well, that's that, I thought. I'm going to lose my first trial. After the cops found this guy with a gun in his pants and a badge around his neck. I'm terrible at this job. They should fire me. Probably will. But as Sullivan had instructed, I didn't blink. On count 2, illegal possession of a firearm by a person with a prior felony. How do you find? It seemed like the foreperson waited an extra half beat. "Guilty," he said. I could sense shoulders sagging at the defense table, and one of Ortiz's family members yelled from the gallery, "No, that's bullshit." Again, no reaction from me, in part because I simply wasn't quite sure how to feel. Minutes later, after the courtroom cleared and we were in the elevator heading back to the trial war room, I asked Sullivan, "So was that a win or a loss?" "This isn't the NFL," he replied. "We don't do wins and losses. The jury gave its verdict and we respect it. That's our justice system at work." That was my first trial at the SDNY. I do 14 more, eventually trying public officials for bribery, human traffickers for buying and selling young sex workers, and mafia bosses for racketeering, extortion, robbery, and murder. I'd argue more than 20 cases in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, grilled by brilliant, unrelenting 3-judge panels. In all, as a federal prosecutor for over 8 years, I prosecuted hundreds of cases, maybe over 1,000. And later in my tenure at the SDNY, I supervised dozens of other prosecutors handling many more. I then served for 5.5 years as director of the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, the criminal arm of the state attorney general's office, where I oversaw 500-plus prosecutors, detectives, and other staff who collectively prosecuted about 1,000 cases per year. The learning curve as a prosecutor is almost impossibly, exhilaratingly steep. You get thrown right into the mix and you learn largely by failing. Every little thing Rich Sullivan taught me in that first SDNY trial stayed with me for my next 14 years on the job and beyond. And I learned new lessons in every case that followed, from other prosecutors, of course, but also from judges, defense lawyers, law enforcement agents, victim services experts, and even from certain defendants. In this profession, nothing comes easy. You have to earn your stripes as a prosecutor, and book learning alone doesn't cut it. William Pelham Barr has served as Attorney General of the United States twice, but he has never tried a single case in the trenches as a prosecutor. For most of his tenure as attorney